anything. Art in all its forms should be about community and supporting people.
Yeah.
So being able to turn to another artist, even if you're a musician and they're a sculptor, and sharing, I am terrified. Are you? Yes, we are both terrified. Okay, that's better then.
Yeah.
I don't feel quite so stupid for being scared.
I think that, that's part of the rehearsal room, isn't it? And, you're saying bouncing ideas off each other. My immediate thought when you say that is, getting constructive criticism. But actually, that's not the only part. The other part is being told what you're doing is good and being, boosted and revered by your peers and your colleagues and your friends in, the majority of performance circles is, the people that really like you and want you to succeed and are going to say nice things to you about your piece. When you're there on your own, there's nobody else but the judgmental voice in your own head.
And that voice is loud.
It was so loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you deal with that, Robert? If, as you're saying that the composing was quite a solitary process, and then you went in and gave the musicians the piece and that was it. Have you been mixing it and putting it together yourself as well, or has that been a outsourced thing? I was present for all of the mixing sessions because I worked with a sound engineer, a guy called David Holmes. He's great. He's amazing. So I recorded it at a studio called Soup Studios, which is in London. It's on a boat. Actually, if you turn down all the instruments on the album, you can hear the Thames throughout the whole thing, lapping against the side of the boat.
That's super cool.
That's poetic.
I'd never recorded an album before, so I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to just write loads of stuff for all the instruments so that we've got something for every moment. And then it was just a 2-year-long process of cutting things down.
And did you find the collaboration in that element, was that something that helped the kind of mental health part of the creative process because you did bring somebody else in, or did it bring its own issues?
I felt part of what I think is really important, and it is actually very difficult for a lot of artists, is interacting with someone who is at a different level of experience to you.
Yeah.
David has done a lot of recording, and he's worked with a lot of people. So when he turns around and says, "Listen, I don't think this works. Here's what I think you should do," it felt great because there's a level of authority there. And that's useful in two ways. You can both go, okay, great, brilliant. I can see where you're coming from, and you are going to be really helpful in terms of how we fix this problem. Mm-hmm. But the other way that it's helpful is noticing when you dig your heels in, because that's ultimately what makes it your project and
right.
What keeps the essence of you alive in it is noticing, well, hold on, when do you feel like I want to defend this decision that might be weird? And it all turns into a mixture of conceding and resisting variously. I think, it's something that a lot of the time is really difficult to get, is that experienced perspective. Because when so many creatives start doing things, they're doing things with their peers and they're all very excited. And there's no one there that's been around the block to both encourage and criticize. Like you're saying, it's the encouragement and the criticism. Unless you're very lucky in where you end up. Otherwise, you can end up producing things in a bubble. Yeah,
like an echo chamber type situation.
Yeah, completely. That was a big concern, even with David on board. That was a big concern throughout the process because it was just me and him. I didn't have anyone else in the mixing room with me, and no one else weighed in on the composition of the album. And so I feared, I was like, oh God, this is, I don't think I've bounced this off enough people.
Right.
I think when I put this into the world, it's going to sound really strange because it hasn't ever interacted with the world before.
I find it really interesting that what you were saying about being in the studio with David just kind of speaks back to what you were saying about this layer of like you being vulnerable. But this is me, and I need people to check that me is okay because only me has listened to me and I don't trust me. It's just so interesting.
What amplifies that even more is the fact that because I'm sitting next to David, if there's something weird that happens in the song, I can turn to him and be like, but this is who I really am in person. Whereas when you give something out to people that don't know you personally, there is no litmus test for, this emotion that you're expressing because art is ultimately heightened emotion in some form or other. Part of what I've struggled with in terms of mental health is an inability to control myself, which is what played into addiction stuff, which is what has led to some really damaging behaviors that I've shown for a long time. And the fear of being able to control myself is big. And so when you're doing something which requires you to pour out all of your emotion, there's a part of you that goes, this is bad.
Yeah, this isn't safe. We've done this before and it's not ended well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't safe. Even when I have to sing, there's some songs where I sing in quite an angry way. Mm-hmm. Even the act of shouting like that, it makes me go back and think about all the times that I have shouted at people that didn't deserve to be shouted at because I wasn't able to guard against that. And so here I'm trying to make something positive with an emotion that I have on so many occasions hurt people with. How do you do that safely?
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
Surely the music that is the safe space, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, that's your way of being able to express all of these emotions in a safe space. And I think that's what we try to do within the Cabaret, you know, is take these really quite ugly moments in our lives and make something beautiful from it. And not only that, but doing it in a way that feels comfortable to you, cathartic, helpful, rather than something to be wary of.